Welcome into the Gold and Blue Nation podcast, brought to you as always by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, your premier dental implant destination. Nick Farrell here alongside Sydney Cariel on what turned into a beautiful day at Mountaineer Field at Milan Pushkar Stadium. They moved the start of the spring game up about 15 minutes.
Yep.
Sorry, the Gold Blue Spring Festival. We're recording this podcast right as country music star Jake Owen is about to take the stage. We're going to give you our rapid reactions, though, to the Gold Blue game. Sid, just to be very transparent, we've now seen roughly 90 minutes of West Virginia football this spring. One 30-minute practice session last week and about 60 to 90 minutes today. So maybe we round up and call it 2 hours. So this is not going to be a podcast about assessing the entire spring. This is not going to be a podcast about who's going to be your starting quarterback in 2026 against Coastal Carolina. That's a decision that's not going to be made for several more months, so we're not even going to speculate on it. But Sid, what did you see from the quarterbacks, specifically Scotty Fox and Mike Hawkins today during the scrimmage?
Yeah, I think those two stood out. So did, who do we got here? Yeah, I'll start with them first. Those two stood out a little bit. And what was interesting about this, the format that they did it like they had two captains and picked from each team. So you really did not know who were ones and twos, which I think is good for just seeing them out there and seeing how they compete with each other. Both Scotty Fox and Mike Hawkins had a couple of decent passes this afternoon. I noticed that Hawkins was paired with Taryn Francis a few times, and they connected a few times. And Taryn Francis, for if you're able to see any highlights that we post, he's number 11, and he's a transfer from LSU. Right. So he's coming in here to make a threat on that wide receiver crew, which if we've seen on that first practice, they did get bigger. They've talked about it this offseason. They do look taller, bigger, maybe a little bit quicker out there. So that was nice to see that connection between them. And then with Scotty Fox, he also had some good connections with some of the guys out there. So I think with some long throws too, it wasn't just, 5 and out, little dump off plays. We had some long passes there, which I think we're good to see the arm strength building a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely, Sid. So again, it's sort of hard to assess just based on what we saw. It seemed like everything was speeding along today. And by the way, for those of you watching the video
of a little
podcast,
football game
we are very much in the fray at this point.
One more thing. This is what I was going to say before I got cut off here. I lost my train of thought. But Max Brown.
Before you got hit by a football.
That too. All the things. Yeah, I was trying. Dodge, duck, whatever the saying is.
Dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge, Sid. The 5 Ds of dodgeball.
All the things. That's what I was trying to do. But quarterback Max Brown. Also, if you guys were here, and I think we got video of it, so hopefully we put it in our highlights. Huge just run down and runs over the defensive player. It was made the crowd and his teammates on the sideline go, just knocked him down and stood back up. And I'm pretty sure it was good for a first down. So that was a cool moment, I think, for Max Brown, being the freshman that he is. So, good stuff from him too.
Absolutely. Okay, so for me, Sid, one thing that I was paying close attention to was the play of the offensive and defensive lines. Again, it's really hard when you're mixing in ones and twos, right, to make true assessments about these groups. But I think the real obvious thing, you mentioned size a moment ago. It seems like West Virginia really has guys that look the part in both of those position groups. Yeah. Today, it seemed like the defensive line maybe had an upper hand on the offensive line. But again, when you have ones and twos, maybe even threes lining up next to each other, it's all about communication, right? And eventually there will be a starting 5 for West Virginia's offensive line that hopefully could be a step in the right direction and a real improvement over last year. Yeah. But the way that the defensive line was getting into the backfield, and especially when they were doing 2-point conversion plays in the fourth quarter in the end zone right behind us, it seemed like the D-line was getting pressure on the quarterbacks every single time, which to me seems like a positive sign about how West Virginia is going to be able to attack opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, I will say, I know we're talking a lot of positives. Obviously, there is some things that this West Virginia team needs to work on, and one thing that Coach Rodriguez talked a lot about in the spring press conferences we had was not have mental mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. We did have a couple of penalties today, one of which came back a touchdown. I worded that weird, but you know what I mean. Brought back, there it is. Brought back a touchdown. It was a false start by the offense, and it was a pretty good play to get that TD, so that was a bummer there. Obviously, if you can imagine, Coach Rodriguez not happy. Defense had a couple of offsides, and so that gave up a free play for the offense. Those little mental mistakes we know that this coaching staff will want to change. So I don't think there was as many as last year's spring game, but there was a couple, maybe less than a handful, but there was still some that you'll want to get that cleaned up.
Yeah, I think Coach Rodriguez lamented the execution during the 2-point conversion drills in what was the fourth quarter of the spring game, pointing out a number of times that execution just sort of fell apart, right? And
I know they made one. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, there was an instance, speaking of penalties, where there was a good conversion that was brought back because of a hold, right? And of course, during that sequence, if you have attended either of the spring games, you know that Coach Rodriguez is in the stands here asking fans to call plays. So there's an added element to all of this because it puts the pressure on fans to make a good play call. But a lot of it came down to execution. And I know that's kind of a minute fun thing at the end, but yeah, definitely far from perfect.
They did get that one of the 2-point conversions, but Coach Rodriguez told the crowd to boo because the execution was not good. And he didn't like how they weren't set fast enough. So that goes to the quickness he wants on this team.
I mentioned, Sid, imagine getting booed at your own spring game.
I know. And wait, real quick about Coach going up into the stands. He was in an area where long snapper Caden Seller, number 53, I guess his mom was around there. And I'm not sure if she called the play, but she was around where the play call was happening. So Seller's down like, hey, Mom, call a good play, which is kind of funny. His teammates then, give him a hard time. So if anything, that kind of showed the camaraderie this team's building a little bit. So, yeah, that was funny.
And again, I would say that that's another positive sign. That's something that will continue to be developed over the course of the offseason and into August with fall camp starting. Blue team officially the winner of the Gold Blue Spring game here at the Gold Blue Spring Festival, 39-30. Technically, the gold team wore white. That's another wrinkle to this. It was really a blue-white scrimmage, though it may have formerly been known as the gold-blue game. Nonetheless, a 9-point difference between the blue and gold/white teams. Any other takeaways, Sid?
I think that I like that they treated this like a real scrimmage. Like the coaches were into it, the players were into it. It was on the sideline. It was apparent that we're taking this seriously. You're in front of fans now too, so it's not in front of an empty stadium. Actually, people are seeing you play. And for guys who transferred here, who we all think are going to have big roles, like a Teron Francis, I hope I'm saying his name right. We'll get it right when the season starts. And Cam Cook. Even the quarterbacks, Scotty Fox and Mike Hawkins, it was a chance for them to show what they can do. So I do think that everyone took this seriously, and we were able to see a little bit of what this team might look like.
I will say, Sid, great crowd today for the spring game.
For sure.
Turnout, you never know, right, when the forecast looks as bad as it did/does. I mean, the wind really is picking up here as we record this before the Jake Owen concert, but great attendance. Both sides of the bleachers had plenty of gold and blue, even though the start time of the game was moved up to 11:45 due to weather to try to speed everything up. It was kind of a condensed spring game, but still a really great turnout, as a lot of people are really fired up to see what happens in year 2 in this second stint under head coach Rich Rodriguez. And speaking of the head ball coach, we'll go right to the podium and hear from him as he closes out spring football with the old Gold and Blue. That's next here on the Gold and Blue Nation podcast after this quick word from Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery.
The reason I came to the practice was because I had some teeth extracted and I wanted to get some replacements for it. We did a treatment plan to see how many implants they were going to place, and now I'm actually just waiting to get the crowns. The thing I liked the most about coming here, I was greeted with a smile, everything ran smooth, and that they were really going to do what I wanted them to do to make my smile a little better. They're some of the best doctors, and you will get good quality care.
Searching for a mortgage lender that's 100% local, personal, and focused on home loans? First Green Mortgage has been serving West Virginia for more than 35 years, and they can assist you with every step of your home ownership journey. Visit them in Bridgeport or Morgantown or at fgm.bank.
I finished up spring ball with this practice session, and it was a nice atmosphere, had a good crowd. I think our players really enjoyed it. It was pretty competitive. Not sure we executed really well at times, but I thought they played pretty hard. Had a couple silly penalties that we'll have to get corrected. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good spring. I think we found out some things that we wanted to find out, and there's still some questions and stuff that we got to get finalized before the first game. But it was West Virginia won today, so that's a good thing. I think only one guy got hurt. I think Prince banged up his shoulder. I don't think it's a long-term thing, a few weeks. But outside of that, I don't think we had any other injuries, which is good.
So, Rich, you said you found some things out. Give me a couple of the positive things you found, maybe just through the spring and certainly today.
Yeah, I think, our quarterbacks, there's a little bit of experience there with Scotty, with Mike, and even with Max, and so you can see some of that. But there's also, they don't have a ton of experience, so you can see how every practice, I think they advanced a little bit. I think we're probably got a little bit more competition at most of the positions. We're getting a little bit deeper, which is a good thing. And I think, for lack of, everybody uses this word culture, but I like where the culture is at, and I think it'll continue to get increased to be exactly where I want it to be.
In terms of Hawkins in particular, now that he got through his first spring with you, your thoughts on him from when he got here to now?
Yeah, he's taking a leap every day. He's a smart guy. It's really important to him, and he's here. He's taking a lot of extra time to learn, and so in 14 practices, I really think he's taken a big step. And throughout the summer workouts, and I know he'll be over here a bunch of times in the summer, watching film and probably meeting with coaches. I think he's what we thought we were getting with Mike. He's shown every bit of that. I'm really, really pleased with his progress. I think really pleased with Sky's progress, and Max Brown has gotten better too. So I think we have some talent with those freshman guys. So all in all, I think the group as a whole took a good step, but there's another leap they can get to, and that's why this summer is going to be critical for them.
What did you think about the freshman quarterbacks? They have a few.
Yeah, they all can run, can't they? I mean, they all have the ability to run a little bit, and they're competitive guys. You also see a little nervousness in the throwing. I think sometimes you aim it instead of just throwing it because you want to, you see it, you're making the right decision, and you don't just let it happen natural. And I think things happen a lot faster, obviously, in this level than it does on a high school level. But we got Wyatt Brown coming in too to provide some competition. So the quarterback room, I think, is in a good spot. We got to stay healthy. Like who would have projected what happened last year? But there's some talent there.
Going to the fan side of things, where did the idea of you did it last year, but where did the idea of going into the crowd and letting them call the 2-point conversions? Where did that come from?
I think I first started doing it when I was at Arizona. I don't remember doing it the first time here, and we just had to try to have a little fun with it. And they really enjoyed it. And so I also like to do it because sometimes when if you're on the clock and it's not quite as easy to call plays as sometimes you do. But I think, I really appreciate our fans coming out today. And I know we got a great concert with Jake Owen coming up, and that's a reason to come as well. But, we have some of the most passionate fans in the country. They love West Virginia football, and I think they're going to love our team. I really do. I think it's going to be a really, really fun team to watch, and it's going to be a fun team to coach. And so I'm hoping, the folks that came here today, if they haven't bought a season ticket, go buy one because you're going to want to come to Mountain Air Field this fall and watch these guys.
Your observations as a whole of the defense today?
I thought, we really limited. It really hurt Zach because I made him reduce his playlist way down, and so he couldn't make all his fancy calls and stuff. So we were really generic defensively from a call standpoint. But I thought we tackled pretty good. I think we still got to get work on getting off blocks and recognizing things a little bit. And we didn't throw the ball down the field as much as I would have liked to today. But I think we've got some really good competition at some key spots. Again, a lot of starters were graduating and move on, so we need to have these guys come and be ready to play come August.
Rich, without giving too much away, what are some things that feel like a negative or two that you feel going into the offseason?
Well, we're not in shape, and no team is in shape in spring ball. And to play it at our pace, you got to be in great shape. So that's what summer workouts are for. I still think our guys, they may know what to do, but they may not know why they're doing it. I think that's a challenge both for our players and our staff is I want our guys to know why they do this in a certain play or a certain call. I don't think in fact, I know we're not there yet. And that's not just a quarterback, that's everybody. And so that's what's so critical about the 42 workouts, the 18 skill developments, whatever we have over the summer, that it's another leap like spring ball was.
Rich, on the online roster, Brian Hansen's kind of like the only punter listed on there. Do you have some of the other kickers?
Yeah, Jack was punting today, and he He's had really good spring. Now he shanked one today, but and then Peter's been out with a foot, so he can punt and kick. So we got Jack and Peter and Brian as well. So we got pretty good competition there.
You said a big thing going in was to see, the competitiveness, the intensity, hard edge, as you sometimes call it. Were you satisfied with that today?
Yeah, I was. I think the competitive part, going blue against white, I had said, I thought, okay, I'll give the winners steaks and the losers hot dogs, but I'm like, that's not some, like enough separation. So I said, okay, the losing team has got to clean up the stadium. So that got their juices going. But we have a great cleanup crew, so it might already be clean by the time Monday gets here. So we'll figure out some way to reward the winners or punish the losers. But that competitiveness, when I first did it a week and a half ago, I could see that going through. And guys love to compete. If nothing else, they love to compete. And keeping score that way, I think, helped.
Will your off-season plan be similar to last year, or will you tweak it a little bit?
As far as what the summer goes?
Yeah, summer, OTAs, all that stuff.
Yeah, the summer will be pretty similar. I think now it's the second year for most of the staff. They understand how it's going. Before in the summer, the coaches couldn't even ask the strength coach what to do. And now, we can be involved with them to a little degree. So we'll need to do that. I mean, August, our opener is a little bit later, so we don't start camp until August. But as I said earlier, this is a critical time. We have to somehow force experience into our guys because we don't have a lot of guys that have experience starting at this level. Now, we have brought a lot of guys that have started purposely. There are a lot of guys that started at other places, and so they have game experience. But they don't have game experience in our systems. And so that's what this summer and August camp's got to be.
I mentioned earlier this week that you were going to try to watch the film of today 4, 5, maybe 6 times, like entering the start of next week. What's the difference in watching film of like today in inter-squad versus a regular game in the fall?
Yeah, good question. The biggest thing is that coaches aren't on the field kind of telling them what to do or making immediate corrections. They have to wait. It's just like a game. They have to wait till they get to the sidelines. They got to kind of figure it out on their own or with a teammate. And that was one thing that we've got to get better at. There are, we have a few guys that really know what they're doing. They got to be a good teammate and help their guys out there to know what to do. So there were times that we were on both sides of the ball. They still were, trying to decipher what the play was while the ball was getting snapped. And that's got to get fixed. And, when you do it a scrimmage situation like today, it kind of shows up a little bit more than it does at normal practice.
Coach, you mentioned early in the spring there were times where you thought the coaches maybe should even be harder on the team in terms of being hard edge and not being lazy, things like that. Where is that now?
Yeah, I think it's better, but it's still a work in progress. I mean, my standard of playing hard and the coaches is usually pretty equal, pretty same, but not always. Like I'm really, really critical on effort. I mean, over the top critical. Like I'll this might be years of wanting it and experiencing it that, I told the coaches, grade them hard on an effort standpoint because I'm going to grade them hard on that. And so I think that part of it is still coming, but this staff, I think, gets it. They understand and,
With where you are now from where you were a month ago?
Yeah, it's better now. Now, I haven't watched today yet. I'm sure it'll be within 2 or 3 plays I'll see somebody loafing. Typically, you see it on a turnover, like we had the one turnover return. Somebody was probably loafing before the ball was recovered, and somebody was probably loafing as he was running it back, that kind of thing. And so that's got to get ingrained in our guys. Like I said, playing hard and not loafing is non-negotiable. If they're lazy or soft, we've got to correct it in a hurry.
All right, that's head coach Rich Rodriguez speaking after the Gold Blue Spring Festival. Sid, a couple of other notes from the Gold Blue Spring Festival. The winner of the Tommy Nikolic Award, granted to a distinguished walk-on from the program, is West Virginia native Cyrus Traw, a wide receiver on the team. 3 players recognized as Iron Mountaineers. That's for outstanding work in the weight room. Nick Cray and Ryan Ward among the winners. Both of those guys are returners on this year's team. So that's a wrap here for us for our coverage of the Gold Blue Spring Festival. But before we sign off, Sid, give me one thing that you're most looking forward to about the 2026 season?
Okay, one thing I'm excited. I don't know, there's a lot of things, but okay, I'll stick to the offensive side. I am excited to see how Cam Cook comes alive in this offense. We heard the WVU's new running back coach, Jay Bowers, tell us that he's going to bring a different dimension to this offense. He's fast, he has patience, he has good vision, and I think his jump from playing at TCU for 2 seasons and then going to Jack State for 1 season, he told us helped build his confidence. So I think that little leaving the power.
Got hit again.
If anybody saw that,
again.
that
What
was
a great
heck of a
soccer
save
stop,
from me.
by the way, from Sid.
Stretch, sign me up. I'm ready.
Genuinely, Coaches O'Brown, where you at? All
I'm
right.
here. But I do think that Cam Cook will bring something to this offense, and I think he's ready to show what he can do again on the power forward level in the Big 12, because he had those 2 years at TCU, and he played well. His sophomore year, he led the Horned Frogs, but just needed, I think he wanted to just show off his style a little bit more and show that he can do much more than just run it down the seam. He could catch the ball, all the things. So that year at Jack State last year really did that and made, obviously he was the nation's leading rusher. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to this offense that we know Rich likes to go heavily on the run. So I'm excited for that. And he seems like a good, easy person to root for too.
Surely was sorely needed after last year too, with how really bad West Virginia was running the football. And I know you can chalk that up to injury, right?
That's fair,
but
yeah.
If Cook can be impactful and if he can stay healthy, that's going to completely change the dynamic for West Virginia's offense in year 2 under Coach Rodriguez.
Definitely.
For me, Sid, the thing that I'm most fired up about is the schedule. I think it really plays into West Virginia's favor in some ways. You don't play a true road game until the first week of October because there's a neutral site game in there with Virginia. West Virginia, of course, was 2-1 after non-conference play last year with that thrilling victory over Pitt, then lost 5 in a row. I think the schedule really sets up for West Virginia to have a fast and strong start to the season. Early opponents in Big 12 play include Oklahoma State and Iowa State, a team that has a new head coach and a new system. So I think that all of those things are trending well for West Virginia. Plus, you've got back-to-back home games in October, back-to-back home games in November. It seems like every year around here, there's just one of those periods where the Mountaineers don't play at home for 4 weeks or something like that. And there will be back-to-back road games separated by an open week around Halloween, bookending October and November. But other than that, the schedule does look really good and maybe even in some ways favorable for West Virginia, at least in terms of travel, in terms of matchups. We really won't know that, though, until the season gets started, because it's not just WVU that has nearly 70 new guys again this season. It's pretty much everybody in the Big 12. And so we're going to live and learn, and things are going to change from week to week in this conference and throughout college football again this season. All right, that's a wrap on this edition of the Golden Blue Nation podcast. Thanks for being with. Oh, no, it's not, because Sydney's got her finger up. All right, what is it?
I just have one thing to say. I am so sorry for my word vomit a little bit there. I'm just excited for Jake Owen.
Oh, yes. Sid is a huge country music fan, by the way.
I do love country music, so I'm excited for it. I think I was a little like when we started the podcast.
Because
I'm excited.
Right?
I'm fangirling.
That's right.
Yes.
And so that's why we got to wrap up, because the concert is about to start and we won't have Sydney's attention anymore once it does.
I'll be singing and you don't want to hear that.
For Sydney Cariel, I'm Nick Farrell signing off on the Golden Blue Nation podcast, brought to you as always by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, home of the Same Day Smile.